Alright guys, this is my Burris signature ring video. I'm going to show you how a combination that normally doesn't play well together, how you can make them work using the Burris signature rings and the inserts. I'll go through each step as I've changed them, and I'll show you how to make the adjustments so that you can keep the scope optically centered. Okay, here's a look at all the components together. The gun, the base, the rings, the scope, and the insert. And like I said together, we're going to try to make all of this go back on target because it's missing miserably. The best of my knowledge, it's off by probably 10 feet at 100 yards. So I'll be shooting at 25 meters and we'll figure it out. Alright guys, here's a look at the rings that I have on hand. I've got a plus and minus 10, 2 sets of plus and minus 20s, and 4 of the original zeros. So between this set right here, I should be able to get this lopsided, cross-eyed gun back on track. Okay, here's a good look at the turrets on this Leopold scope. So the way I get them optically centered is I'll turn it until it won't go any further. Now you don't want to put it in a bind. Now you can see the 6 right here is where it stopped, or roughly. So what I'll do is I'll turn it. That's 1 revolution, 2, 3, and it went 3.5 revolutions. So that'll let you know that you need to get it in between these two. So what I'll do, since it's 3.5, it's going to need to go down, well, let's do a little quick math, about 1 3/4 revolution. So I'm starting on the 0. That's 1. And since this is conveniently marked, I know 3/4 is going to be about on the 3. So that's optically centered up and down. I'll do the same thing on the windage, and then we'll start with the rings. Alright, I know it's just a fluke, but on my particular scope, both of them lined up with the 3 right here as optically centered. So that'll give me a good reference point and let me know just how much windage and elevation I do have. Alright, there's a quick look at the backstop I'll be shooting into. That thing's completely filled with plastic and rubber and everything else. You can't shoot through it with a 25 caliber, and this weak 177 for sure won't. What I'm going to do, since I know for a fact from doing it before that it is so far off, I'm going to shoot in the dead center of it. Now that thing is 4 feet by 5 feet. I'm going to shoot in the dead center of it, and then I'll use a piece of tape to mark where I'm aiming and where I'm actually impacting. And that way, as I do each step, I can walk it up to it. Okay guys, now here's a close-up look at the rings. Before I put them in, you can see this is a 0. Hopefully it focused on that. And these have a round shape to them, and so do this. They're kind of cut out. So when you put these in there, they're going to self-center. Now it doesn't matter if you can do this. That's the beauty of these rings. If you have one that's shooting high right, you can turn it low left, whichever. But with the zeros, I just start out with them centered up. And then I'll set the scope in. And then I'll clamp it down and then see where it's hitting. Alright, I'm not sure how clearly you'll be able to see this, but I have a 0 here in the rear, and I have a minus 10 up front. That's the way I'm going to start. Now the principle of this is, since this thing is hitting incredibly low, what we'll do is you just try to leave the scope optically centered and move the scope to the point of impact. So because I'm hitting so low, I want it to go down. Now this is thinner than the plus 10 that I'll put on top, so it will slightly elevate the scope from the rear, and it should point it in the right direction. Is it going to be enough? I don't think so, but I'm going to take it in steps so that you can see it. Alright, as I suspected before, the 10 didn't move it enough, so I put a minus 20 on the bottom the +20 on the top, which got the elevation right. Once I got the elevation right, I was also off left and right. So what I've done here in the back is, because I have the 20s in the front, I put a 10 in the back. Now what I want to do, I'm hitting about 6 inches to the right, so I want to move the scope pointed to the right. So all I do is put the +10 on the right hand side, or the -10, the +10 on the right hand side. Sorry, I confused myself, because I'm wanting the scope to turn this way. So the +10 is going to be thicker, the -10 is on this side, and you can set it where it's right there in the center. So all it does is windage, it doesn't do elevation. That's the beauty of these. As you play with them, you'll get the combination right to where you can get it almost in the center, and then you can use your dials to get the rest. After putting the windage in, I did it backwards, naturally, so I had to reverse it. So this is what it's looking like now that it's finally finished with all the inserts put in it right. Now the reason that I have that unusual looking Weaver rail on there is because of the loading port on the front of this gun. I needed to get the bell further back, so I had to use that particular rail to do it. But it's very solid and it works great. Okay, as you can see, sometimes the inserts stick out just a hair further on one side than the other. It's not a big deal as long as it's good and tight. Something to think about after you shoot these a while is, after a few shots, go back and re-snug these, because these have a tendency to settle in, and once you do, it'll quit moving. Alright guys, I hope y'all enjoyed the video. If you haven't tried the Burris rings, give them a shot. There's a lot of good things about them. They don't scar up your scope, which is really, really nice. For me, I don't stay married to any piece of equipment. I swap and trade and sell all the time. So this keeps them like they are supposed to be, where they don't have any ring marks on them. And the fact that they're adjustable, so that you can fix them when you have a gun like I have here, where when everything's put together it doesn't align right. You just get a set of signature inserts and adjust it how you need to. Just always remember, what you're trying to do is move the scope to the point of impact. So if it's hitting low, you'll want to elevate the rear or move the front, and you can get it in there just right. And something else, if you have a Picatinny rail, you can also, as you get closer to the center where the knobs are, it gives you more elevation and windage left and right, because of the fact that it's closer to the pivot point. So that's something else. If you get one and you're really having trouble getting it lined up, you can move it closer to the center of the scope, and it'll move it in a more drastic fashion. But anyway, I just try to get them within, at 25 meters here, I try to get it within the size of, say, a snuff can, and if that's close enough, I just use the knobs from there. But anyway, hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks for watching.